what you bring forward in your art. Yeah, share that with everyone and myself.
Oh, sure. Okay. So, my regular day job is I'm a health and wellness practitioner. So what I do is I do hypnosis, I do Reiki. I'm a former registered acupuncturist, right? So I was trained in traditional Chinese medicine for about 10 years. So providing that, and I got out of the field, but I'm also a personal trainer and a close combat instructor.
Wow.
So I go a bit way back. So I'm born Jamaican, came here when I was 12, so 12 all the way through, and then I moved away, got married, and went to Greece. So I speak Greek as well. So sometimes you'll hear in my poetry, you'll hear me drop a few Greek words, like I'll say "Ella agapimo" or "Yasu tikani." So "Ella agapimo" is like saying, in Greek, we'll say to a woman like "Ella agapimo," my love, right? Or we'll say "Polyomorphy." So in some of the stuff that you're hearing me saying, some of my instrumental, like polyomorphy is a saying she's a beautiful being. Okay. Right? So you'll hear a lot of that aspect, right? So, and that's my background with schooling. And so what it is too, I enjoy the fact of being a hypnotherapist, and then it leads over into like philosophy, deeper studying of philosophers. So you'll hear a lot of my spoken word, not necessarily about higher being or God, but more consciousness of your own conscious mind. You know what I mean? So again, so it gets deeper with like neurons, pathway, but I'm a bit of a nerd on both aspects, but so I'm just stick to the nerdy part of myself, but that's what I do for a living. Yeah. And then so I got into poetry and producing beat, because what I find too is that if you find the right beat with the right frequency with a nice bounce, what that does, it also triggers the neurological pathway, and then it vibrates through the chakras, right? So you'll hear it within the beat, but then you hear that like doom at the back of my beats, because what it does, as you listen to it, it vibrates a happy feeling. Because a lot of us bounce off frequency, right? So again, everything is frequency, everything's energy, so we all connect based on that energy base. So by connecting energetically, and you have the right frequency, like I listened to some of your tracks, I think I have it in my playlist. Oh. So when I bump your stuff, I'm like, okay, I can hear it in you a little bit in the background. Okay. I'm like, wow, her frequency vibrates at high. So then you attract that type of energy. If you have the right music, right frequency, people will be like, oh, you know what? I like what he's saying. And at least the beat is giving it that positive vibration versus you getting like, boom, 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 and you're like, you get all angry and all trip it out, right? So then once you have something more subtle, it's sort of like a poetry behind it, you can have it with the poetry or without, right? And that's why I produce both, with poetry and then without poetry, so you can enjoy the beat, right? Without the poetry, if you want to hear the poetry, then you're like, okay, let me put it all together.
Yes.
Right? So I come on that aspect of producing my beat and writing my poetry on the aspect of what I see or how I see life based on how I see my patient, right? Because as you speak to your patients, you realize that, that is something that you never thought about, or how they phrase things, how they're trying to go through their own trauma, right? So people write about that and you're like, whoa, man, that fits. So I try to utilize the concept of positive phrasing and suggestive message, meaning like if you're going through a situation, I may say a word, you're like, that's deep. I got to go research that, right? So I try to write on that aspect or create instrumental based on that.
Okay, I love that. Honestly, I love the message behind why you do what you do. Yes. And, I have taken a listen, and honestly, I believe I even said that to you. Like, it's like a form of like a meditation almost, So yes. I really agree with exactly that concept of what you're expressing, because I felt that. So, I mean,
okay, good. Thank you. I was hoping because I'm like, sometimes I sit back and thinking like, do people really feel what I'm saying? Or is it just like, as an artist, you feel like, okay, what I'm saying is that it's not driving. So you get discouraged. And a lot of time you get discouraged. I'm just into the music industry. Not really. I'm just enjoying what I like to do. And I realize people around is like, wow, this is crazy, because they're saying a lot of things. And because they don't want to hear that the conscious or the awakening part of it, they're like, nah, man, this guy's crazy. You put him off to the side. He's talking way too much nonsense. But the fact is, somewhere in your lyrics, you say something in a bar, and you're like, oh, damn,
it's sick.
Right? But when you drop it in a bar, you put in the music, they have to listen. So if you're creating that positive vibe and you're jamming to your beat, you're like, I forgot one of your bars, but you were talking about love, and I think it was wine. Like the way you described wine, it was like it was an essence within the wine. So it's not necessarily the wine that you're talking about. It's the internal essence that intertwine that love. Like, whoa, man, that's the wine.
Yeah,
but a lot of people may not think deeply of what you're saying. But when you listen, you're like, you know what? I could vibe with that. And everybody needs a hug, and that hug that creates that frequency. You're like, oh, and you're done. You know what I mean? So that's what I get from bumping yours. So I'm like, okay, I can see this. So when the opportunity came, right? So when the opportunity came up, you're like looking for artists. I'm like, man, I haven't performed in a while. I've been writing a lot, making beats, but let me just try and then see if the vibe connect. And it connects. So I'm like, okay, I'm jumping on.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah, I'm honestly, thank you for reaching out, because honestly, yeah, we support each other in our work. We follow each other. We've been supporting each other. So I appreciate that support, and I'm here to always support. So I'm excited to listen, and I'm sure everyone else is. And yeah, whenever you are ready, Yokchi, you can take it.
Okay. All right. So